All right, at Lane Kick Josh is where you find him on Twitter. You see him on 24/7 Sports. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Josh Pate, what is up, man? How are you?
I hate that I cannot be video, Skyping, whatever we use with you guys right now, because I don't feel like we have the same connection just speaking over the phone emotionally as we do when I can see your faces.
I kind of agree with you. Our director of video, Scott Forrester, the best in the business, agrees 100%. He wants every single guest to be on video, every last one of them. But some of them are divas like yourself, and they just refuse to do it.
Look, they made me be up at the crack of 10 this morning to be in the office, which I think sets a dangerous precedent, expecting people to work every day. But I don't run this place; I just work here.
Well, let me guess though. 75% of our audience though is audio only, and let me guess, you're in a white T-shirt with nothing on it at all. It's just you don't have any words on it at all. You own the.
He's got Fonzie's closet.
you own the book when it comes to white plain T-shirts.
I got a full pack of new T-shirts, and here's the irony: the T-shirts come from a company that has not agreed to become an advertiser yet. So they're missing the boat entirely on that. And it's not Hanes either. Hanes and I have flirted a little bit on social media, but they're not on board. There's a great company out there. I wish I could shout them out, but instead I just wear their nondescript T-shirts.
Well, you need to check out Cotton Citizen. They're I'm telling you, it's the best. It is the best as far as like comfort ever. You'll absolutely love them. Maybe you can get a deal with them.
You knew you wouldn't say that without us dropping a sponsor
That's right,
in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can get them at our friends at Shea, celebrating 100 years right here in Birmingham, by the way.
So let's talk a little college football with you, and we're 179 days away from week 0. The NFL combines are about to crank up, and Matt Corral announced today he's not going to throw at the combine. But I'm interested in what that roster looks like over in Oxford with what's left down there, bringing in Jackson Dart. How do you think Lane ended up dealing with this offseason after great expectations?
It was huge. This is pivotal, and it probably won't be talked about a lot nationally until Preview Magazine season, really, at the earliest. But, they lost a lot of guys, and the focus is going to be on quarterback, as it should be. They went and got a very good talent there. I remember as early as this time last year, Jackson Dart had come in, and at that time he was a true freshman at USC, and people were wondering how soon can he push, and there was a lot of talk about him behind the scenes out there this time last year. So Lane Kiffin got him. I don't doubt Lane Kiffin's ability to win and develop Jackson Dart. But here's what else they did. They lost a lot of other pieces, and they needed to go get other pieces, and they did. And I think the number right now is at 12. They've landed 12 kids out of the portal, but it's not just numbers for the sake of numbers. 9 of the 12 kids they landed from the portal were among the top 7 at 24/7 at least in our position rankings from the portal. So they didn't just add quantity, they added quality too. And you got to do it because now that you've set expectation that you can win double digits over there, even as Alabama's on this run, even as Texas A&M's on the climb, and LSU just landed Brian Kelly. There aren't a lot of easy W's over there. Look at what Arkansas is doing under Pittman. So, yes, this was pivotal. This was imperative for Lane Kiffin. And I don't know how he could have done any better. I'll put it that way.
Josh Pate is with us. At Lane Kick Josh is where you find him on Twitter, 24/7 Sports. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. I remember growing up, though, Josh, that they used to always say you can only take so many JUCO kids. Got to be careful of those JUCO kids. You don't want too many of them. Then I remember Ron Prince, when he was the Kansas State coach, was like, screw that. Didn't he sign a whole class of JUCO kids one time?
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, do you have to worry about that same thing you think with a portal, that you get a little too portal heavy?
The way I've termed it is you cannot depend on the ornaments more than the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So always I think you need to have a baseline of really strong foundational high school recruiting. That has to always be where the premium is placed. But at the same time, I don't know if it's as taboo to lean on the portal as it used to be leaning on JUCO kids. And because, back, when you used to take a JUCO kid back in the day, how many years were you expecting to get out of them? Because these days you're taking a lot of freshmen from the transfer portal, and not only do they have multiple years left to play, but the added bonus for you, if you're taking them, is they've burned their one-time free transfer. And so now if they come to you and they leave again, you're talking about having to maybe sit out a little bit longer if they want to leave again. And also, you never know in the future how conferences are going to rework the transfer portal rules. I'm of the opinion that these rules are not written in Sharpie right now. They're very much written in pencil, and we haven't seen the last of the shifting and sort of reshaping of this. So I don't know that it's as risky or certainly as taboo as it used to be to lean on JUCO. But, yeah, I don't ever see a sustained run for a program which is built primarily on the portal. That's got to be more a luxury for you than a necessity.
Hey, both Florida and LSU have been to the SEC championship game within the last 3 years. If I asked you which first-year coach, Billy Napier or Brian Kelly, gets their program back to the SEC championship game first?
Part of that has got to do with the level of competition in the divisions. I mean, Florida was in Atlanta less than, 24 months ago? What was it? Or 14 or 15 months ago, I guess it was. I would probably go Napier. Having said that, though, I mean, there are arguments to be made, and this is called fence riding, by the way. There are arguments to be made on both sides. With Napier, though, what's interesting to me with those guys at Florida is they're going to get in there. They're about to go through spring. And that whole quarterback situation down there is no more solved than it felt like this time last year. Emory Jones did not end up exiting. He's still kind of around, and Anthony Richardson is there. And so what I'm very curious to see them do is go into spring, then come out of spring. And for that matter, Brian Kelly's this way too. A lot of these new staffs, once they get to see what they have, and then we obviously know we have that second transfer portal window in college football now right after spring, I think there's going to be a mad dash for several of these new staffs to try and salvage what they can for year one from the portal because they know more firmly what their needs are at that point. But I would lean ever so slightly Napier. I think the roster rebuild at LSU is probably a little more steep than it's being made to look right now. They did some good things in the portal. They did some good things, especially closing strong on the recruiting trail. But there are some fairly sizable holes and roster deficiencies that were left behind by that last staff that will not be solved overnight. Now, I'm not saying Florida's in prime position to do that either, but it's just so much more workable over in the East than it is in the West.
Josh Pate is a national college football analyst with 24/7 Sports. If you're not familiar with his work, Late Kick Live and Late Kick Podcast, he tackles big subjects in a short amount of time, but he goes a little deeper on them sometimes than most do. Topics like this, like Coach K is shutting it down this week, his last regular season game later on. I wonder about Duke and what they'll be after Coach K. Same could be made for Alabama after Nick Saban. Do you think Alabama fans, whenever Nick Saban retires, are we looking at a replay of the 1980s, 90s, early 2000s again, or do you think Nick Saban has taken the Alabama job to a level that'll keep it sort of like Ohio State? Doesn't matter who's coaching the team.
I think a lot of that depends on external forces. You know, you guys clearly were around pre-Nick Saban, and you remember how bad the on-field product was at times. But then you guys are also very able to diagnose some of the reasons why. And you know, some of the forces at work behind the scenes there felt like a huge ankle weight tied to the program that never would let it get off the ground. Now, Nick Saban came in and was one of, if not the only, people in the world that had the gravitas to come in and actually call the shots at Alabama. And if he needed to disassociate some folks, he disassociated them because for the greater good of the program, it made sense. It always did. He was the guy who could get it done. Well, did you shoot them off into space, or did you just toss them out in the parking lot? Because if they're out in the parking lot, they've just been doing push-ups the whole time. And now they're ready to come back in as soon as they get the opportunity to. So you move post-Nick Saban, hopefully that's in the year 2045, but when you move past him, number one, have you truly rid the program of folks with ulterior motives and deep enough pockets? In other words, the kind of problems that Auburn's dealing with right now, have you truly rid yourself of that being a risk? I think it would be foolish to totally believe that that's the case. So then the next question is, do you find someone with the kind of gravitas to walk in there and accept the post-Saban role that also has it in himself to say, you know what, you're going to be on board doing it our way, or you're not going to be on board at all. And here's the important part, that person has to have the stroke to be able to say that. That, a lot more so than whatever a win-loss record is or what an average recruiting ranking from a coach's career has been, is going to determine what the post-Saban era of Alabama football is going to look like.
Dave Aranda goes from 2-7 in year one at Baylor to 12-2. Had a top 5 team at the end of the year last year. If I'm a Texas fan, Steve Sarkisian 5-7 in year one, I'm expecting that type of turnaround. Is that fair?
Yes, it is fair. A lot of people will call that myopic. I don't think it is. To me, when it's myopic and when it's a little delusional, is when you're demanding something from a program that you haven't invested into it. And Texas has invested maximum across the board. You pick the department, you pick the category, they are A or A plus in terms of investment. And that includes the fans and support group and whatnot too. So no, I don't think that that's ludicrous at all. And at the very least, if you don't put a raw win total on Texas this year, but you just ask for significant improvement, you could lose a game by a field goal here or there, but still have shown me a whole lot of improvement. But if they have such volatility about their performance that any given week we could still get a text from a buddy in the third quarter and say, hey, Kansas is leading Texas in Austin. Did you see this? If we're still dealing with that this year, we got big problems. I remember so vividly when that video surfaced of Bo Davis going off on those Texas players, I think on a team bus after they had lost another game. And it was so refreshing, I guarantee you, for a lot of Texas folks too, because he was saying what needed to be said. It just so happened the video leaked. Well, they went about changing that. And they've overhauled a massive chunk of their roster via a combination of the aforementioned portal and recruiting too. And they got the number one quarterback from the previous cycle, and Quinn Ewers in there. All of those things scream big turnaround. Now you have to actually execute it on the field. And so if you've got all the intangibles in place, but you don't get the tangible results, that's when people, even early on, start saying, okay, well, if we did all this, but we still didn't get the result, do we have the right guy in place? And that's how quick that can happen at a place like Texas.
You did the College Football Renaissance Tour. Josh Pate with us, 24/7. The College Football Renaissance Tour. You're a Columbus, Georgia guy. You grew up in the South. You work in the South in the SEC footprint. We like to think we invented great crowds at football stadiums. Give me a place you went where you're like, all right, SEC fans, they do it right too.
I had a mouthful of oatmeal. Excuse me.
What flavor oatmeal?
This is the sugarless apple cinnamon. I'm basically a prisoner at Guantanamo this morning for all intents and purposes.
Wow. I love the apple cinnamon, but you got to go sugar.
Yeah. Can you not add Splenda? Do you do like substitute sugar?
Look, this is I don't want to disparage a great company, but I mean, this is the same company where I will have to throw my trash in 7 different bins when I get done with breakfast. So no, they don't have any sugar around here.
Wow.
A prisoner at Guantanamo.
Let's let that simmer. And let me tell you about a fun-filled trip to Penn State in week 3.
Ooh.
That was the game Auburn was up there. And I went up there, and I think both teams were still undefeated at the time, and Penn State had all the world to play for. It looked like they were about to make a big run. Well, I had heard about the whiteout, and so it was great weather conditions, primetime game, everything was perfect. And I'll tell you what stood out about the Penn State crowd, and those who have never been up there, it's not that the crowd is a little bit bigger because it was about 110,000 that night, but it's not the size of the crowd necessarily. It's not the decibel level necessarily. What Penn State has, better than any place I've been, is a level of crowd involvement. There's an understanding by every patron who goes through the turnstiles that now that I'm in the stadium, my role has just begun. I have an active role to play. And it's almost like looking at 110,000 people who have been cast for a movie and they got the call. And so they're on set now. And everything is so perfectly choreographed for an elite game day experience. Everybody's involved. There aren't 70% participating and 30% kind of sitting on their hands, letting the others shoulder the load. Everybody is on their feet. Everybody's wearing the same color. Everybody's involved. And I said last night on the show, and I'll reiterate, it's the closest I've ever experienced to like a big pro wrestling event that's happening at a football game. That's the way it felt to me when I went up there. So I will never forget that. That stuck with me for weeks and weeks and weeks afterwards.
There you go. Excellent answer. The whiteout at Penn State. All right. He is Josh Pate at Lane Kiffin. Josh is where you find him on Twitter, 24/7 Sports. Consume his videos and podcasts and things there. Josh, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the oatmeal.
I will see you guys next time. And
That's
I apologize to everyone behind the scenes for not doing it this time.
Quite all right. Not a problem. Thank you, Josh. Take care. Josh Pate with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.